You know, for every zombie-based survival game, there's not much of a difference between them all. I mean, sure, Undead Nightmare was set during the Wild West, and Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies were set during Nazi Germany, but for the most part, they're all really similar. If it's a shooter zombie, the main form of defense is guns. If it's a game like Dying Light or Dead Island, your main force of defense is melee weapons and guns. And originally, that's what Dead Rising was in its first installment. That was until they escalated everything with Dead Rising 2. Dead Rising 2 is the pure embodiment of the term hold my beer, because just when you thought you saw everything with the first game, the second game took everything to a whole nother level. Dead Rising 2 was psychotic, not just for its story but also for what it allowed you to do. Dead Rising 2 was a zombie-based survival game released in September 2010, 4 years after the original. The formula might be the same, but everything about this game is completely different from the original. New character, new setting, new objectives. Rather than Frank West from the original, they gave us motocross champion Chuck Green. And instead of the Willamette Mall, we're in Fortune City, which is basically this game's version of Vegas. Now, the game opens up with Chuck starring in a zombified reality TV show called Terror is Reality, a show where the players / contestants see who can kill the most amount of zombies in a limited amount of time. Now, after Chuck wins the match and returns to his dressing room to grab his kid, Katie, another outbreak ensues in Fortune City. After fighting through waves of zombies throughout Fortune City, Frank and Katie make it to a safe house. Now, come to find out, Chuck's daughter, Katie, is actually infected with the zombie virus, and because of that, Chuck has to constantly go out and find Zombrex in order to keep her alive. I'll say that's like the second most important objective of this game. The first most important objective of the game is Chuck having to go out and clear his name after he was accused of starting the zombie outbreak. With the help of Stacy, a protester he met at the safe house, Chuck sets out to not only clear his name, but to also find out who's truly responsible for the zombie outbreak. Now, even though there obviously is a similarity between Dead Rising 1's story and the story of the second one, there are huge differences that separate the two. Unlike Dead Rising 1, due to Chuck having an infected daughter, you constantly have to go out and find Zombrex. Think of it as like another timer. You got 3 days to find out what happens before the military arrives, and you also have 12 hours to find Zombrex before Katie dies, which in my opinion added a lot more pressure to the second one compared to the first. And I don't know about y'all, but me personally, I didn't like that. I feel like the timer itself is annoying. I don't need a second one, especially when it's shorter than the first, reminding me that I have to do an objective that could seriously impact the course of the game. Whether or not you give her Zombrex does affect the ending, so between the timer and Katie's Zombrex, there's not much time to really do a lot of shit that you want to do, but I'll get into that later. What I really want to dive into when it comes to Dead Rising 2 is its gameplay, because I think it's a step above the first one. Now, just like the first one, in Dead Rising 2 you have a collection of weapons that you use to defend yourself against zombies. The movement is similar, there's no sprinting button, it's just light jogging. However, when it comes to the weapons, there's a variety. There's baseball bats, bow and arrows, knives, spray paints, whatever. Anything is a weapon in this game, just like the first one. What makes this game different and better, in my opinion, was the maintenance rooms. See, Dead Rising 2 decided that baseball bats and sledgehammers weren't enough, so what they did was they took all the weapons from the first game, they brought them back, and they gave you an option to combine them to turn them into something stronger and more dangerous. How it works is this: you find two weapons that are compatible with one another. Let's say a sledgehammer and a fire axe. You bring it to a maintenance room, you put them on top of a table, and you start mixing them. Well, you mix them in a cutscene, you're not actually doing it, but Chuck himself is mixing the weapons. Once said cutscene is over, now you have a whole new weapon. In this situation, it's the Defiler, the sledgehammer mixed with the fire axe. That shit is probably one of the most dangerous weapons I have in this game. Sometimes it's a one-hitter, sometimes it's a two, but if you get a good headshot off of it, like you jump up and you slam it on top of an enemy, 9 times out of 10 they're dead. Zombie, looter, whoever. And you can do this with so many other weapons. Hell, this game is so crazy that some of the weapons that you use to combine to make more weapons is complete batshit. You wouldn't think you could do that unless you had like a crazy ass imagination. For example, if you're running around and you find a wheelchair and a car battery and you mix them, you got yourself an electric chair on wheels. Or even crazier, if you find a flashlight and like a box of jewelry, if you mix them, you got a whole ass lightsaber. Now, just like the original, the weapons are limited use. If you use them too much, eventually they'll break on you. But the combined weapons are a lot stronger and harder to break compared to the regular ones. Like, this new weapon mixing element that they introduced in the second game changed the series forever. Every game after Dead Rising 2 has the maintenance room or the weapon mixing element in it. It was so impactful that when I went back to go play Dead Rising 1, I forgot there was no maintenance rooms. Like, playing Dead Rising 1 doesn't feel the same without the maintenance rooms. That's how much this shit has affected the series. I still like the first one, nothing against it, but Dead Rising 2 did it so much better when it comes to its weapons. I think one of my favorite weapons in this game is when you have a dinosaur head and like fireworks, and if you mix it together, you can like stick it on a zombie's head and it attracts other zombies. And it's completely harmless, but it's funny as hell to look at. This game oozed creativity, and you can tell how much of their imaginations the devs put in this game. Hell, Dead Rising 2 went so far that you can even customize motorcycles. If you had a chainsaw, well technically two, you can attach it to a motorcycle and now you got your own little death bike. It takes a little minute to unlock, you know, you have to go through a number of missions in order to get to it, but it's fun as hell when you finally reach it. See, now I want to kind of get into something I disliked about this game. And it's something major, right? It's in damn near every single one except for the last one. But something I don't like about this one that I fucking hated in the first one is the timer. Now, I know it's a vital point in the Dead Rising games and that it adds more pressure and all that extra shit. I never liked the timer. And in my opinion, I think the timer is worse in the second one than any other game in the series, because not only did you have the military timer, but you also had the Katie Zombrex timer. Mind you, like I said in the beginning, if you miss any of those points, if you miss enough of them, that will affect the ending of the game. Like, badly. It gives you a whole different ending. Fortune City is a pretty big place and it's very different from Willamette, but due to two different timers, it makes it harder for me to explore said map. Even though I do feel like a lot of creativity was given to this game, I don't really get the chance to experience a lot of it because I constantly have to worry about two different timers. I think that's the reason why I like Off the Record so much, which is basically a Dead Rising 2 what if, you know, if Frank West was there instead of Chuck, because there's a sandbox mode where there is no timer. You just get to free roam around the map without any consequence. Obviously the consequence is death if you know, die, but other than that, there's no real consequence. You can just do whatever you want for how long you want. All the bosses from Dead Rising 2 are still around in their same spots, so you can have a little boss battle if you want, or you can just try out different combo weapons on a variety of zombies. And even that kind of bothers me, because it's like, why do you have Sandbox and Off the Record and not the shit that it's based off of? That's just me though, it is what it is. Like, the craziness of this game brought so much to the series that it's crazy that people don't talk about Dead Rising 2 enough. I can easily say that of all 5 games, I think Dead Rising 2 is probably my favorite. From its psychopaths to its combo weapons to everything, I think this game did a lot of things better that Dead Rising 2 and even 3 couldn't do. Even with the psychopaths, even though I think this opinion might be extremely debatable, I think Dead Rising 2 psychopaths were a lot more interesting. Like, for example, the twins. Not only did you get a 2-for-1 boss fight, but I also think they were a really good reflection of how psychotic and creepy these Dead Rising 2 boss fights can be. Like, every psychopath in these games have a shtick, and their shtick was that they were twin sisters who were a little too close to one another, if y'all get what I'm trying to say. The game doesn't flat out say it, but it definitely hints at it. Dead Rising 2 was fun as hell. Even though I didn't like the timers, I do believe that it is the best in the series, and I really enjoyed replaying it in order to make this video. It's on PS5 and I think Xbox One if y'all looking for it, but if not, I'll say just pick one up for your either PlayStation 3 or your Xbox 360 versions. And with that being said, that wraps up this episode of Reggie TV. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I sure as shit enjoyed making it. I think next up I'm gonna do Need for Speed The Run. Like, I recently bought it for my PS3 and I forgot how much fun I had with it. So I think I'm probably going to talk about that maybe sometime next week. I don't know. But that's all I got for y'all now. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I'll see y'all in the next one.